From Columbia in high definition, this is WIS News 10 Awareness.
Good morning and thank you for joining us for Awareness. I'm your host, Megan Norman. The holidays are about gift giving and spreading joy, but for some, this time of year sparks a deep pain that cannot always be explained. Today, we're taking a look at grief and how to cope when everyone else seems to be so happy. We talked with Linda Gill, a licensed grief counselor with Joy in the Morning Center for Life Losses, about ways to make it through the holidays and beyond. Let's talk a little bit about what constitutes grief, what constitutes loss.
Grief, the definition to me would be the feelings that accompany a loss that is really important. People talk about significant losses, and significance is different for different people. If it's significant to you, if a person is significant to you, if your pet is significant to you, if your job is significant to you, and you lose it, or there's a death, then there is going to be grief that is pretty much directly proportional to the relationship you had.
And how does someone begin to work through that, whether it is the loss of a job or a pet or a loved one?
I think, first of all, people are, unless they are really ready for someone to die, and I'm not sure anybody's ever really ready for that, there is initially a period where things really feel surreal. And so for that period of time, and because it hurts so much when someone dies, people tend to avoid the pain for a while, and so they may not actually be working through anything in the beginning. I tell people that they don't start mourning till they're ready to start confronting the fact that the person has actually died. And that's different lengths of time for different people. I have met some people who were really stuck in avoidance for 6 years. I really worry about a person that's in avoidance for that long. Normally generally, I won't say normally because it's different for everybody, but generally within 2 to 4 months, the numb starts to wear off, and then people will begin to confront the fact of what has happened.
Right, the reality starts to set in.
Right, and the pain starts to set in. And so people, when the pain starts hitting, many, many times they will start doing things to avoid the pain. Now, as long as they're doing healthy things, I don't have a problem with that at all. If they are working, if they are spending more time with friends, if they're watching movies, if they're playing video games, those kinds of things, because those are diversions that are healthy and people need breaks from the pain. So I think that's really important. But when they start doing drugs, when they start doing alcohol, when they misuse prescription drugs, when they lie in the bed and try to sleep 24/7 just to avoid hurting, then something needs to happen to help them at that point.
Well, once there's that acknowledgement, does someone ever completely get over grief or get over loss?
You don't get over it. You work your way through it. I describe to my clients when I'm working with people and my support groups that it's like working your way through a labyrinth in the dark. Just a big tunnel that's really convoluted and crazy, and there's a light at the other end of it, but because of all the twists and turns in it, it's very hard to get to that point. The initial part, probably the first months, usually, sometimes even through an entire year, they're still in the really, really convoluted part, because for some people, especially after a sudden loss or a tragic sudden loss, like a murder or a suicide or somebody dropping dead of a heart attack or a stroke, those kinds of things, the convolutions are bigger because there's more complicated information that they have to be able to process. I think that they just need to start addressing it as they're able to do it. To address it means that I start to allow myself to feel. And sometimes people are so overwhelmed by the hurt in the beginning that they don't want to feel it, and so they feel way, way too much, and they don't know what to do to get out of the feeling, to get to a break again. And I tell people to do it in doses. I tell them, what would really help you is if you kind of figure out what is the main feeling today. Like if I am feeling super sad or super lonely or really angry, and anger is a very legitimate feeling that people have when they're going through grief, or if they're feeling guilty or some regret for something that they didn't get to say to somebody before they died, those types of things. What I tell them to do is pick the one that seems the biggest for that particular day and have at it for about 30 minutes. I mean, to have at it means to get it outside of me in some way that's going to be healthy. Feelings are not wrong, they just exist.
Right, they're just there.
Yeah, feelings just happen.
Right.
And it's what we do with the feelings that determines, you know, a moral value to it. And so for me to feel angry, or for me to feel guilty, or for me to be scared or lonely or empty or hopeless, those are just feelings.
Right, you have to just work through them.
And so what I tell people to do is figure out a way to take that feeling outside them. It may be that they need to scream. I've told people that sometimes I've had to do that, and I'll drive past a section of woods where there are no houses, roll down the car window and just scream bloody murder until I feel better. Now, you know, some people would look at me and say, you're pretty crazy to do that, but it feels good to let it out. And I'm not hurting anybody. I'm not hurting me. I'm not scaring anybody.
But are you hurting yourself if you ignore those feelings?
You
and
can.
You don't address them?
You absolutely, because unaddressed feelings can build up, and they actually can go numb. People do two things with feelings. They either hold them down, and then suddenly one day they've held them down for too long, and they come out in a really violent kind of way. It could even come out in a way where they harm somebody, or just they're screaming at people that they love, or they break down and they cry and they can't stop crying. The other way people deal with it is to ignore it, to numb it out. And when you numb out feelings, what you're doing, you can't choose which ones you numb.
Right.
It's like you're numbing out the good ones, the good feelings as well as the bad ones, and that becomes depression.
Well, and finally, I want to transition into the holiday season, because
Yes.
we're very much in it now. And how do people deal with grief and depression and loss as it relates to the holiday season? Because it tends to bring out some of those negative feelings, even if the loss you experienced was years ago.
That's true. The holidays by themselves are stressful, and the holidays, whether people have had losses or not, many people experience depression and anxiety and all kinds of things through the holidays. You superimpose grief on that, and it makes it even more difficult, I think. And so what I tell people to do is maybe choose which traditions are the ones that are really, really important to you and your family, and decide if you're ready to do that one again this year. Traditions are really important for families, and if there's been a loss in a family, and if the other person that's gone is a really important part of that tradition, sometimes it hurts too bad to do it this year, or maybe even next year. But maybe the next year you'd be willing to do it again. Sometimes to do a tradition hurts in a good way, because the person that is gone is a part of the tradition, and the family feels their presence, and the family can talk about them. Other times the hurt is so raw and so painful that it hurts too much to do it. I've known people that have just taken off and gone to the beach and cooked chili instead of a turkey, you know, for Christmas. I think it's fine to not celebrate the holiday if people don't want to do that.
Well, you offered a lot of insight into this very difficult and sensitive topic for a lot of people, and I know there are a lot of resources out there that will give to people and point them in the direction. So thank you so much, Linda.
You're welcome.
Still to come on Awareness, one woman lost both parents within just 2 years, and a couple lost their son. They are each sharing their stories of how they're learning to deal with loss. Alison Chang is 26 years old.
For the most part, I'm doing all right.
She's surrounded and comforted by memories.
Both my parents were diagnosed stage 4 terminal. I was in shock, thinking how could that happen? How could they both get sick?
Alison spent 7 years taking care of her parents since she was a freshman at Clemson. Her mother passed away in February of 2011 after battling ovarian cancer for 5 years.
I didn't have time to be sad. I had to be strong for my dad.
Just 5 months after her mother died, her father was also diagnosed with cancer.
If I was crying, he would get upset that he couldn't do anything to comfort me.
Alison says she suppressed a lot of the grief until after her father died.
A lot of people don't understand grief and everything that it encompasses if they've never been through it, if they've never lost anybody close to them. It's this feeling that you never know when it's going to hit. That's one of the hardest parts, because you can be completely fine and then have like a grief spasm. Something will remind you of your loved one that you lost, and then suddenly you're just crying.
She has good days and bad days, but says her faith helps her cope.
My parents wouldn't want me to be upset about them passing. Our family's Christian, and so I do believe that they're in heaven, and I do believe I'll see them again, and the best part is that they're not suffering anymore.
Our next guests also know the real sting of losing a loved one too soon. Ron and Linda Brock lost their son Nick suddenly in September. It's something no parent wants to happen. They have learned ways to keep their son's memory alive and how to continue coping with their grief. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
I know this is still a very sensitive topic. Just a couple of months have gone by since you lost Nick. Now, tell me what happened.
Okay. He just gotten back from vacation from Florida, and normally when he comes back in from traveling or vacation, he always comes over to our house and eats and tells us about his journeys and his trips and the guests that he had. This time when I picked him up at the airport, he wasn't feeling good. He said, "Mom, Dad, I'm just too sick to come over tonight, so maybe tomorrow." So I took him home. And so instead of coming over to the next night, he said he was still sick. And I asked him to make an appointment with the doctor. And he called the next day on Friday when he was supposed to go to the doctor. And he was too weak to even get into the car and drive himself to the doctor. So I went and picked him up. And from there, the doctor saw him and told him he was severely dehydrated. His pancreatitis was kicked in again, and said if he didn't get better in the morning, to go to the ER. So took him home, got his meds, got him into bed. And then the next morning I called to see how he was doing, and no answer. And then at 11, called again, and he wasn't there, and didn't answer. So I went over and saw him, went into the house, looked into the bedroom, and saw him laying in bed like he normally sleeps. So I didn't want to bother him, thought he was just resting. By 2 o'clock, still hadn't heard from him, so I went back over and opened up the door and went in. He was still in the same position that he was in when I saw him. And went in, turned the lights on, and that's when I knew that he had passed, and called 911.
Obviously, you weren't expecting this to happen. How have you been starting to cope with your grief, and what were your initial emotions?
The initial emotions were just couldn't believe it, disbelief, just thought that it was going to go away. He was going to come back in the door the next day and everything was going to be fine. A lot of uncontrollable crying for days. Felt like a hole had been taken out of my heart, and a loss, and just knowing that I'd never see him walk through the door again.
And now Linda Gill was talking about never actually getting over the grief, but learning how to work through it. And you just told me that you're trying to find a new normal. Have you found that new normal yet?
Not yet. We're still working towards that. Our life has changed. It's changed a lot. You know, we try to do things. We'll do things that remind us of Nick without forgetting him, but yet having to go through the grief of everything of him being gone and not seeing him again.
Right. And one thing that's been helping both of you is talking about it, having a support group. How has that helped?
The support group has helped me and Linda tremendously, because it gives us an opportunity to open up and talk about what we're going through, how we actually feel, and being around other people that have gone through similar things, so we know it's been recent for them or it's been a little while for them. It lets us know that we can get through this and that there are better days ahead.
And what are some of the challenges with going through this heartache, aside from the emotional roller coaster that you're probably on? How are you dealing with these so-called grief spasms that Allie talked about?
We talk to each other a lot.
Yeah.
We cry together a lot. We lean on each other for support, and being able to open up in the counseling sessions that we're going to really helps a lot through grief support, because you can tell people you're angry, you can tell people you're mad, you can tell people you're happy, you know, that I had a good day here and something happened, but you also can open up and tell the bad things, and there's no judgment on you at all. Each person goes through their own period of grief, and the way you suffer or the grief you go through is what you're going through, and everybody else has a different story.
Right. And with the holidays approaching, there are a lot of traditions that a lot of families go through, and even the two of you have your own traditions. How are you going to be dealing with that this time around?
Well, normally one of the traditions we always have is our family, because we were in the military and traveled around a lot. We always get together on Christmas Eve, and we always do appetizers. And now that Nick was a chef, he was always the winner of the contest, but him and his brother would make appetizers. Susan, his wife, would make appetizers. Linda and I would make appetizers, and we'd, you know, get everybody to test them out to see which one was the best. Yeah. We're not going to do that this year, and I don't know if we'll ever do that again. But this year we're going to, our son, Richard, has invited us over to his house, and he's going to make gumbo, which is one of my specialties. And so we're going to have gumbo this year.
And how has your other son been coping with it as well?
He struggled a lot at the very beginning, because him and his brother had gotten close over the last, about 13 months,
Yeah.
when my son had rededicated his life to God. And they were doing Bible study every Sunday night, and Nick was a traveling chef, and they would call each other and go through Bible study. And Richie had a hard time not being able to get on the phone every Sunday and talk to him. And he went through a lot of grief. He did a eulogy for him. He did a great job. And now he's just coping with being an only son and having all our devotion on him versus splitting it out between his brother.
And finally, you know, we always say that parents aren't supposed to bury their children. What advice do you have for other parents or other people who are going through a similar loss?
Yeah, we're not supposed to bury our kids.
Yeah.
But our faith in God, faith that knowing that we will see him again one day, and that, you know, Jesus even showed us how we're supposed to grieve. He even said it's okay to grieve. In John, when Lazarus died, you know, Jesus wept. He showed us it's okay to weep, you know, to show your grief. And Mary really, you know, led into him. Said, you could have kept him from dying. You could have done something. Why didn't you do this? And he let her rant and rave and pour out her heart to him, and he did not rebuke her. So it's okay if we talk to God, talk to Jesus, and let him know that what we feel, and it's okay. And that's how he helps us heal and prepare. Absolutely. But we always know that we will see our son again.
Right. Well, that's a very comforting thought in a time of grief. Thank you both, Linda and Ron, for sharing your story with us. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. Welcome back to Awareness. One of the hottest events to ring in the new year comes with a very cool headliner. This year's famously hot New Year celebration features Kool and the Gang. There is so much in store for revelers as they bid farewell to 2013 and welcome in 2014. Here to give us the scoop is Melanie Murphy, co-chair of Famously Hot New Year. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, this is the third year that we're having this here in Columbia. Yes. Why bring it back again?
Because it's an amazing event. It's one of the biggest parties in the Southeast. We are bringing people in from all over Columbia, all over South Carolina, all over the nation, some all over the world. So we are having it back again. Our numbers grew last year, and we're hoping they get even bigger this year. We have great headliners, great bands. You can't miss it. It's great.
Is there anything new this year compared to last?
This year, well, last year we had a little separation with how the street was divided up. We had a VIP area that was right up next to the stage, and then we had some general admission behind that. This year, it is all open to general admission. We still have the VIP area that tickets can be purchased for indoor events, but outside, it's all free to the public. Come enjoy.
And what about parking? There's still going to be a fee for that?
There is a fee for parking, but there's a lot of local parking around with some of the garages on the street as well.
Okay, and as far as VIP tickets, how can people get those and how much are they going to cost?
The VIP tickets can be purchased online at famouslyhotnewyear.com, and they are $125 per person.
Okay, and let's talk about partying safely. Of course, we want people to bring in 2014 in a very safe way. What are some of the ways that you're trying to accomplish that?
One of our biggest things we encourage is the stay and play. The hotels downtown have great packages that they're offering to, partiers that want to come enjoy the party, and then just walk right on over to your hotel room. They've got great, brunches for the following day and special rates. So, I mean, you can't go wrong.
And finally, why should viewers come out? Instead of doing their own thing this New Year's, why should they come to downtown Columbia?
Well, first, because we have such great bands. I mean, it's a free concert. Kool and the Gang, we have ZZ Ward, Weaving the Fate, that's local to Columbia, South Carolina. Come enjoy the bands, bring your family. It is friendly to everybody, and you get to spend the best time with 20,000 plus people to ring in the new year in front of the State House.
Well, what a great way to ring in 2014. Thank you so much, Melanie, for being with us. We will have ticket information on our website. Just go to wistv.com. We'll be right back with a final thought. Dealing with loss is something we all must do at some point in our lives. That could be a breakup, the loss of a loved one, a job, or even a family pet. It's what we do to make it through that loss that makes all the difference. If you find yourself stuck in a rut of despair, get help. There are resources in the Midlands where you can talk to a professional to help you process your emotions and learn a better way to cope. We have contact information on our Awareness Facebook page. We'd like to thank Linda Gill, Allie Gaucher, Ron and Linda Brock, and Melanie Murphy. Until next time, I'm Megan Norman. This is Awareness.